We salute all the mothers, both biological mothers and those wonderful mothers whose hearts became the spiritual word, the spiritual womb to give place to children who needed love, principle, and to make them whole, the cosmic nature of love. And we also acknowledge all the single fathers and the gay couples and people who couldn't have children, who wanted children. All those people. Today is not always an easy day for a lot of people. And it's not about gender or anything. It's about the heart. It's about that place right here that keeps us going. And we're so fortunate as we all came from a mother, right? We had our father, they say they gave us, who gave us to the mother, who the creative source, and then we came out in the expression. So when Earth Homes talk, that is the three, right? There is the start, that thought that comes into mind, goes through the creative process into the womb to come out as the effect. So we are that effect of those things coming together, of the expression of the divine. So we celebrate those mother figures in our community and in our world, the nurturing presence of the divine feminine that is within us. And blessings to all those who've guided us through to make life help us get where we are. I love this part. It takes a village to provide love, care, and support through life. And that is why I got into ministry. I always talked about with my husband and my family that it takes a village. And that's where I started looking for my spiritual home, because I knew I needed a village. And I had my children at the time were younger. So I wanted them to grow up and have some source of understanding that there's something bigger out there. Like their life is important. They are that expression of the divine. Yet there's that place of community where we come together. Because community is so important in every part of life. It's how we walk each other home. It's how we get to see what our thoughts are doing, how the effect is coming out in other people, that mirror. Lots of time people are mirrors. So it's important that we're always walking through this together. And what a great example of community last night. It was so fabulous to see all the people there and the people who couldn't make it. We're sorry, we missed you. And yet, seeing everybody have so much fun and dance, and oh my goodness, it was just a great expression of community. So when I was thinking about my little project, and I was thinking that life is like viewing the backside of a tapestry. Sometimes it's all muddled, right? There's all the different colors, there's all the different pieces. It was like, is that Jack Fowler song that I think we're gonna start playing again next, where he talks about life as that tapestry of love, of joy, which is fabulous. So this started my project today. So what I'm gonna encourage everybody to do, I'll start passing out. I'll start here. Linda, and I think there's 3 colors in there. So pick a color, and what I'd like you to do when you feel called is to come up to the board, take a push pin, tie a knot in your little thread, and place it on the heart. And in that, I'd love you to think of the person who nurtured you. It may not be your mother, it may be an aunt, it may be your father, but who was it that nurtured you, and place them in our heart today. And at the end, we'll have a view of that tapestry of life. Because we know what happens on the front side when we come in. We see the back, which is all muddled, and there's all little knots, and there's all different things, but then you turn it over, and there's that gorgeous piece of art. That gorgeous piece of art that we get to experience. I have so many things to say today, but I don't want to keep you here till 3. 2 o'clock is fine? Okay. You know, I came up across a Mary Oliver poem, and it made me think of my situation as a mother and raising my children and coming through, I decided to stay at home and take care of my children. And I run a daycare, and I've done other things: banker, daycare person, minister. But it's interesting. There were so many times in my life that I judged myself for not being out in the workforce, for not contributing enough funds, so to speak, to the home, and not being felt like an active participant in life. And yet, I was, and I did, and a very important job. I've raised two fairly functional young human beings. I'd say 90% of the time they're functional, and they're both out working, living on one's home now, but he was living on his own, so that is it. So I found this poem that I thought by Mary Oliver was beautiful. She says, "My work is in loving the world. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still not half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished, and learning to be astonished. The Phoebe, the Delphium, the sheep in the pasture, and the pasture, which is mostly rejoicing, since all the ingredients are here, which is gratitude to be given, and a mind and a body in these body clothes, a mouth which to give shouts of joy. A mouth to give shouts of joy." And her most famous quote is that one that says there's three things about living. I'm trying to find the quote here, but I'll paraphrase a little bit for you. But is to be astonished, to live that full life, to love. There's those three simple rules, and to be kind. And how do we show up in the world? It's so important. So, sometimes there's parts of my life that I used to blame my mom for when it hurts and so bad. And it hurt so bad when I was blaming her is because I was hanging on so tight. I was hanging on so tight to that story. But when I let that story go and I surrendered, that's when the shifts happened. But the thing is, sometimes we hang on to those stories and we play that blame game because it keeps us from connecting with others and with ourselves. And we fortify it. We fortify that story with concepts of who's right and who's wrong. But blaming is a way to protect our hearts and to numb us from what's truly what we're feeling. So the way to start to get out of that would be first, get in touch with what it is that really feels like to be hanging on lightly instead of tightly. Letting it go. And it's not acknowledging that things don't happen, right? Because it does. Life is life. It does happen. But when we can stop blaming and begin feeling, we come into an open space where things can soften. And instead of making our parents or anyone else right or wrong, we can move into that middle way. So when we move into that middle way of not hanging on to our version of the story so tightly, not to be certain who's right or wrong, that allows our hearts to enlarge, right? Imagine the Grinch. Remember, his heart started so small and grew and grew. But that's at peace, because I don't know if any else of you grew up in a household with a brother or sister, but you're sitting around the dining room table, and you start to tell a memory of when you were little. And your brother looks at you, or sister, whoever, and says, "That didn't happen that way. It happened this way." And you're like, "No." But it's so funny how we can grow up and have that same experience, but it's our memories, it's our perception, it's our feeling of how we walk through that. So that's remembering that sometimes those things that we remember and hold on to aren't necessarily true. It is maybe the meaning that we have made of that story rather than what is true and what is going on. So it's an incredible thing to be in the space of allowing our feelings and not trying to draw boundary lines and feel our protective shells melt, right? It's letting that, sometimes we can guard ourselves. It's like that ice cube and people are chipping away, or I'm chipping away on the work I'm doing, and all of a sudden it just the water starts to slide down because it's melting away. This is a day of conscious loving and honoring of that divine feminine in all of life. Its creation story and its feminine quality that is in all of us, that creative spark. It's about arts, music, writing, creating, and birthing new life. So in this world, we must be able to do the three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go. To let it go. And tell me, what do you plan to do with your one and wild, precious life? That last quote was from Mary Oliver again. Right? It's what do we want to do with this precious life? Do we want to hang on to those old stories? Or do we want to move? Do we want to shift? Do we want to feel lighter? I know I do. About 10 pounds would be great. Maybe 15. Right? But that creative spark that is in all of us. I was reading a story this week about the lady who created Spanx. I know most of you women will know that word. For men who don't know that word, it's a way that we can keep our girlish figure in check. A little tuck here, a little tuck there. So the woman, I'm sorry, I forgot to write down her name. So she used to wear her pantyhose. Okay, this is going back, if any young people in the crowd. And she would cut off the feet because she felt like she was slimmer in these pantyhose, and it shaped her a little bit better and kept her tucked and tidied. And she was like, oh, if only all women could feel like this, like, feel confident and feel empowered in their body. So she thought, I wonder how I could do this. And she was like, well, And then she reached out and she asked God for a sign. She said, if I'm meant to do this, something will happen. And guess what? Something did happen. She turned on her TV. She was watching Oprah. Clicked to the end. And Oprah said, I don't know the whole story of what she was talking about. She goes, but yeah, I wear my pantyhose, but I cut off the feet all the time. And so this lady was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. So she took her $5,000 in her bank account and went all over, and she was turned down many different times, different places. And then finally one of the manufacturers called her up, and he had said no to her several times. He said, you know what? I've changed my mind. I want to help you. And she said, why now? And he said, because I have 2 daughters. Right? He had 2 daughters, and he wanted them to feel however they wanted to feel in their bodies. I thought that was such a great creative spark, that listening to that intuition, that creative place. So the feminine's love and creation energy is more than unconditional. It is a quality, in a way, our human modality, the feminine giving birth to life, bringing new life forward. And we're not talking just about gender, because the feminine is within all of us. This kind of loving is energy upon the entire universe, is created and held together, like the tapestry we're going to build today. A quality of God that gives itself, nurtures life, and holds everything together. And all we can do is surrender to that principle and allow that quality to move through us. That quality of God that gives itself, nurtures life, and holds everything together, because that is pure love. Unconditional love. And the model we've been given for the way of living is motherhood. The only other thing that gave us a chance to love as God loves is the fact that the feminine is within all of us. That's the magic of the Divine Mother. It's the get out of jail free card. Right? The feminine liberates us from our prisons of feeling separate from one another, of living in fear and judgment. That's why we call it that divine feminine, divine motherhood. A mother's love is so complete, so nourishing, it can only be God loving through them. And I know some of you might be saying, well, I didn't have that experience with my mother. And that is okay. You know, it's not okay. I wish everybody had that loving feeling. And yet knowing that you are here now and you can give that loving feeling that you wanted. I know for myself, that is, you know, there were certain things in my childhood that were not necessarily the best. And yet it pushed me into a way of being with my children, of being with my friends and family, that changed me, that shifted me. And I know that I've had that effect on others, especially my husband. It's so funny. One of my friends said to me the other day, you know, how Tony has changed he's a little more sensitive, a little softer around the edges. And I was like, oh no. And not that I'm trying to brag, but she said, that's because you've changed and you've shifted and he has come along with you. He might not come to church every Sunday. He might just come and set up and leave, but yet he still shifted. He still worked through that as I'm whistling away with my tooth. Sorry. Isn't it just lovely? Oh my. Just going to take a sip of water, sorry. Well, at least I have a voice. So today, I think what we want to do is move from that sense of blaming to a more wakeful way of being. Moving into that middle way of going beyond, of making people right or wrong, and just allow ourselves to observe what we're feeling and recognize that there's a creative, artistic quality within you. So it's time for you to allow that and seek it out. Let its expression find you and surrender to that purpose that's flowing through you. Because that is the divine, and it's there, and it's loving you. It's that best friend that you always have. It's when do we stop and listen? I know sometimes I like to stay kind of busy, and I don't listen, and then something will knock me on the head, and then I'll still not listen. Then something will knock me a little louder, maybe on the back of the knee or something. And, you know, it just goes on and on until I pay attention. And like that, the lady who created Spanx, till she paid attention, she heard Oprah say, I cut off those pantyhose, my feet, and she moved forward. And I do remember in her first 6 years, she sold over $1 million, right? Just from listening to that intuition. So our invitation is to steep ourselves in the energy, to soak it up, and we can receive blessings of it from both our physical mothers and from the deep magical sense of the divine nurturing love that is in the heart of all of us. And knowing that there is this one life, and it is the life of good, it is the life of the divine, and it resides within you. You are the vehicle to allow that spirit to show itself, to let your higher self to be revealed. It doesn't matter what you call it, God, infinite intelligence, Christ consciousness, the Buddha mind, Mother Earth. It doesn't matter what you call it. Just call it. And that's what we're here doing, calling it forth, that connection, that love, that joy. So I know I was supposed to talk about value-led life today, but that didn't happen. I was trying to figure out how I was going to tie it all together. But I think as that divine feminine, we do bring that value in, the value that we place on what we're doing as a parent, the value that we place on our friendships, our family, our community. And we know that we're raising our next generation up into this new way of being. I like to say that our science of mind now, it's, you know, it was new thought back in the 20s, but now it's almost old thought. in some ways, right? Because it's everywhere. You hear it. I can listen to a talk. I can listen to Oprah. I can listen to Brene Brown. I can listen to Wayne Dyer was steeped in the teaching. It's not a good example, but, right? You can hear it. It's out there. But so how do we start using what's out there and moving it into our life? So that's what's calling us forward today. That movement of love, of stepping into that divine feminine and allowing that. And next month we'll talk about the divine masculine as well. We'll give that credit too. There's all sorts of things. But it's so good to be here in this time. So I really do hope you take your string, knot it, and place it on the heart. And Jill, Chief Seattle is credited with saying, humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do it to ourselves. And all things are bound together, and all things connect. And this is what we're doing. We're connecting our hearts with what brought us forth into this world. So as we start to view the tapestry that is unfolding and knowing that there is one life, one love, one universal divine mind, I know that life is unfolding in perfection right here, right now. Each of us are that thread, that tapestry of love, of life. I know that I am connected to that divine source of good, joy, love, health, as each of you are. I know that life is unfolding in perfection. Our beliefs in this one divine mind just shape us through. So in this space of allowing everyone the time to honor the one who has judged them, and know that by honoring, Ernest Holmes says, we release the weight of past limiting beliefs and judgments, and it frees us to rise up in faith, which is the mental assertion elevated to the plane of realization. At realization, we're each a realization of the divine, that out-picturing. So I'm just going to let everybody do that for a minute and take another sip of water. And for everyone on Zoom, not so that you are not left out at all, I'm going to ask Jill to place a couple pins up there for you on Zoom, and know that you can just cherish that person in your heart. Oh, there, I found the quote. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it. Pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. And that's the piece. I love how, oh, look at it, it's coming along. I'm going to turn the camera a little bit. Don't mind me, Zoom people. We're getting everybody there. Can you see? Yeah. And the little heart that's coming up. I'll leave you a quote with John O'Donohue. To be a parent is to be invited into the natural depths of divine creativity. Mothers and fathers inhabit the secret of God's heart. Isn't that beautiful? To be a parent is to be invited into the natural depths of the divine creativity. And two, is for all those, that divine creativity when you're loving someone, nurturing them, bringing them through. So we'll just allow everyone. But as we go through, we'll just finish off with a prayer that I started and then I stopped. But that's okay. We did enough. Oh, nice. Jill did a string for every one of you on Zoom. Yeah. Oh, and you got helpers in the crowd. That's awesome. So you're all included. We'll just give everyone one more sec. So I didn't give you homework today. Oh my goodness. You guys are, it's all right? Janet says it's okay that we have no homework today. She needs a week off. That's good. Well, she did do lots of, well, along with the whole team, doing so much work with everything. You're going to get, oh, Linda's. Oh. We'll get Linda involved too. Oops. Yes, I will. I promise. I promise. I promise. I know I don't get to see my mom today, but thank you. Sure, you can put one in. A pink one. There we go. Thank you for helping everyone. Look at how beautiful that looks. I love all the colors. So, as we take this time and knowing that there is this one life, this one love, this universal divine mind that's operating right here, right now. I know that as we settle into this time and space, and our service has been a little different today. Some have said it's been a gong show. Some have enjoyed it. And we have all our wonderful helpers being so patient with all of us. So today I know, and I'm so grateful for the help and the support that we're getting throughout, that everything happens for a reason. Because I know there is that divine good that is operating right here, right now. How can it be any other way? As each of us are love expressed in this world, knowing that love is all there is. My heart grows as I live in this moment, in this present, and tune into my feelings and listen to that inner voice that leads me to be creative, that leads me to show up in different ways for everyone. So today I know that love is right here, right now. There is no place else to go but within. I'm so grateful for this time together. I'm so grateful that I didn't cough all through this. And I so appreciate each and every one here today, knowing that life is perfect. Life is good. I see it. I know it. I feel it. So with this grateful heart, I let these words go to that law of mind that always says yes. I let it be, I let it go, and ask you to join me in saying, and so it is.